All right, here we go, folks. Another Tuesday night and another interesting guest. This is Science Bob McGuire with Lala Bright, and our guest tonight is Bishop Dr. Joshua Sparks, who is, you were old Catholic and now you're Methodist. Am I right?
Well, I pastor a Methodist church, but I'm an Old Catholic bishop.
Okay,
I'm
good.
Bishop of the United States for the Reformed Old Catholic Church and presiding bishop of the United Evangelical Episcopal Church.
There you go. That's terrific. Well, the thing that's interested us is you are a man of wide interest, and under the skies of our Lord, you have taken an interest in things that are unusual for a lot of religious people. I mean, with all the stuff. I mean, plus not many these days talk openly about being an exorcist. So look, you've got a lot of stuff to share with us. Just begin your story where you want to and go as long as you want to. And after that, we will have a conversation.
Okay, well, just a little bit about myself for those of you that don't know me. I am a pastor. First and foremost, as I always say, I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ. My prayer every day when I wake up is, Lord, give me the strength today to pick up my cross, to deny myself and follow you. I think that the greatest travesty in the church is so many people seek prominence and they seek the high seat, so to speak. And, Jesus said, those who are called to lead should be the greatest servants of all. So I want to be a servant. In my professional life, I'm a therapist in a drug and alcohol rehabilitation facility, not just that, but we're a dual diagnosis clinic where we take care of mental health issues as well. But in my religious life, I'm a Franciscan, fully professed Franciscan friar. I'm bishop of in the Reformed Old Catholic Church. I'm the bishop over the whole United States of America. I'm also the presiding bishop of the United Evangelical Episcopal Church and a longtime member of the Sacred Order of St. Michael, Order of Exorcists, working in conjunction with Archbishop Ronald Fowle Enright. And I'm also a panel member on the show The Unseen Realm that comes on every Saturday. So some of your viewers may know me from there. My life is just a basic, simple life. I'm married, have two sons. I live in a little town in Kentucky, northeast Kentucky, about 21,000 people. I pastor in a little town called Vanceburg, Kentucky, which has about maybe 3,400 people altogether in the county, in Lewis County. I've been there almost 3 years. I've been in ministry for 33 years. Much like any other minister, I attended seminary, graduated. I've got a dual doctorate degree in theology, one in counseling. So I love education. And my whole life has been lived to serve people, to serve God and to serve people. And as you said, my friend, I do have a wide range of interests. And it's kind of like when I was called to preach, Jesus appeared to me. I know a lot of people say, oh, gosh, this guy's crazy. We're not going to drink the Kool-Aid tonight. But Jesus appeared to me in a vision. It was so real, just like I'm here talking to you. I seen him face to face, and he called me to preach so many years ago. And, he came to me, he chose me, and it's kind of like the things that I've experienced in my life, whether it be Bigfoot, whether it be UFOs, whether it be paranormal activity, whether it be dealing with the darkness and being called into the ministry of Exorcist, which is something that was kind of ironic that happened on a coon hunting trip. So let me tell you about that here in a minute. It seems like everything is just drawn to me. As I was telling you before we come on tonight, when COVID hit, we all were stuck in the house. Of course, I still had to work. I was working for a funeral home, so I done transport. So a lot of times I was the only person out on the road, picking up people that had passed away and, driving sometimes hundreds of miles to take people different places. But we were on the porch one night, and my father and my youngest son, we seen some strange lights in the sky doing strange things that airplanes don't normally do. and the zigzag and the pulsating lights and things of that nature. Of course, I didn't mind to, I didn't really think about getting my phone out and recording anything at the time. But, it seemed like there was about a year and a half that I didn't notice anything in the skies because I really wasn't paying no attention. Wow. I really began to see things. And I thought, you know what? It may not be a bad idea to try to snap some photos. And I'm horrible with a camera, much like when I take a picture. Everybody always tells me I've got the perfect face for radio. If that's a compliment. But I started taking pictures. And the things that showed up, are the things that I seen with my naked eye. And, I haven't talked about this that much until this past fall, when I was really encouraged to do so. We was in Connecticut at the Defeating the Demonic with my dear friend Jason McLeod, who hosted the event, and we had a wonderful time there. And I was encouraged to begin to talk about these things. And I've seen a lot of things and had a lot of experiences in my past, years ago, not just with doing research of Sasquatch and Bigfoot, but now UFOs and ufology and things that we see in the sky that's really starting to intrigue me. And I feel like that it's my duty to share the things that I've seen with the world. And I know that brings with it a lot of criticism and a lot of people wanting to ask questions. And, I'm not opposed to answering any question anybody has. I promise you I'm psychologically sound. It's not mass hysteria. I'm not imagining these things. And it's wonderful because it's allowed me to meet wonderful people such as yourself. Wow. And to be able to make a whole new series of friendships that are based on, not just things that are religious, but things that are very much real, just as real as God and the devil. And these are things that people see every day. And 50 years ago, it was laughed off. People were deemed to be crazy when they said they saw things that are unexplained. But today it's more readily accepted because, the whole world's connected now by the internet, by social media, and the whole world has a voice now. Everybody's got a voice. Everybody can have their own TV show now. Everybody can have their own podcast. And ain't it a beautiful time to live in? A beautiful time to live in. Real quick story, and then we'll get into our discussion about me becoming an exorcist. I've been in ministry probably about 5 or 6 years at the time, maybe a little less. And my dear friend of mine who's a pastor, we used to go out and we would hunt raccoon. We would never kill anything, but we went out for the thrill of the run, just to hear them dogs bark. And we took a cousin of mine with me one night, and we did as we always do. We got out in the woods and we began to pray, and the Spirit of God began to move upon us. And this cousin of mine began to speak in tongues. And when he did so, I felt, because I've spoken in tongues myself, and I don't have anything against anybody that does that. But when he started to speak, it felt evil. And I told him, I said, listen, that's not of God. You need to stop that. And his face changed from his face to an old man's face. And he looked at me in this very sinister voice, and I'm going to try to mimic what it sounded like, but he said it this way: he can't be saved.
Oh, God.
Oh, my
God. It shivers up and down my spine. I'd read about things like this, but I'd never been around anything like this. I'd heard stories about my mom telling us, if they're going to cast out devils in the service, make sure you're praying. That way the devil don't enter you. And, here we are up close and personal with a demon. And me and my friend both, back then we were wild enough to shoot at, and we'd spit fire in the devil's eyes and not think twice about it. So we grabbed a hold of my cousin, and we began to pray, and we cast the devil out of him. And that was my introduction into the ministry of deliverance. So after that, God began to draw me and led me to Archbishop Enright, who trained me, who's my mentor. And I've learned a lot of things over the past couple decades from him. And it's been a wonderful experience since then. And like I said, it's opened up the door for me to meet so many people that are wonderful, wonderful people such as yourself. And I count it an honor, a double honor, to be on this program with you tonight.
No, thank you.
We are very happy to you. But let me tell you, she chooses our guests by intuition. And it is amazing. I just get out of the way and let it work. So it's just, we've gotten amazing guests, and I've really been looking forward to interacting with you. So she's got some questions.
All right.
Well, my first question, can you hear me, by the way?
Absolutely.
Okay. My first question is, do you think you have any missing time? Do you think you've been abducted? And also, one more question. I'm O negative, and a lot of people that are RH negative or O negative, they have certain things drawn to them. Like you have a whole bunch of different energies drawn to you, and so do I. So that's what I was wondering.
Well, to answer your question first about my blood type, I have to call my mother and ask her, because I really don't. And I don't have my dog tags on. My dog tags added on there, but I don't have my dog tags on. As far as missing time and things of that nature, I've really not given much thought to that. I know that it does happen. You hear different stories like Travis Walton, who the movie Fire in the Sky was written about. He talked a lot about, not just him being abducted, but there was a time in his life where he and his girlfriend were driving down the road, and there was a triangular shaped craft that appeared over top of them, and she was pregnant at the time. And it seemed like 2 or 3 hours went by without them even knowing it. And something that happened to her, that when she went to the hospital, the baby was gone. The umbilical cord was left behind, but the baby was gone. Oh, so I've talked to a lot of people that have missing time. Now, that's something that I need to sit down and really think about, because, when I'm outside videotaping or taking photos, it's usually when I'm getting out of the vehicle, walking into the house, carrying groceries in with my wife. My wife actually seen with me as well the things that I videotaped and taken pictures of. But as far as missing time, that's a good question. That's something that I'm going to have to get back with you on.
A lot of people don't. I didn't know until it was brought to my attention. Honestly, I just knew I would get yelled at a lot for being really late when I didn't know I was really late. So a lot of people don't know. What is your?
Well, don't let her undertell you. She's had hundreds of missing time incidents. Hundreds.
Wow.
I have a ton of questions. I'm excited you're here, but and then I'll let you talk. But sorry, what does your wife think of all this?
My wife is very supportive of everything that I do. We've been married for 21 years. Today is her birthday. Yesterday was our anniversary, 21-year anniversary.
Happy birthday!
And I know she's watching. I know my son's watching. He just came up on the screen. But she's very supportive of everything that I do. And she's kind of like the quiet partner, the silent partner in the back. But she's my prayer warrior, and she always covers me in prayer. And she's logged a lot of miles with me. Every mile that I've traveled, her and my youngest son, he's the one that keeps me sane. He's the one that takes care of all the audio and the video. And he's the genius when it comes to those things. I miss the days when I used to record my broadcast on cassette and VHS. You all remember those?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I miss those days.
I worked at a radio station when I was a teenager, and we carried Sunday broadcast, and we would have them beamed in from wherever the church was. It was very amazing. I'm sorry. Sorry for interrupting.
Usually he talks all the time, so I'm excited. So you have photos and videos that we're going to show tonight. But something I'd like to ask all the guests is, what is the craziest experience you've had with, I guess, the paranormal or demonic? I want to know about that, because I've had experiences, so I like to ask what other people have gone through.
I'll share with you 2 out-of-body experiences I've had.
Okay, I'm into it.
The first one, I walked into the restroom, and I know this sounds kind of strange, to use the restroom. That's what we normally do, right? I don't have no hair to brush, so I walked in there to use the restroom. And
Two perfect skulls.
Well, you know what they say, bald is beautiful. So you're good to go, my brother. But I walked into the restroom, and my cousin's baby was in intensive care, and he was in very, very bad shape. And they didn't know if he was going to live or die. And I walk into the restroom, and I proceed to start to use the bathroom, and I left my body and traveled about 25 miles to Huntington, West Virginia. And I woke up walking down the hall of the hospital, walking into the NIC unit. And I began to lay hands on this little baby, and I began to pray. I seen how he was laying. I seen all the tubes going in and out of him. And I prayed so loud that it caused the nurses to come into the room. So obviously they saw me as well, and they heard me. And as I prayed, as I finished praying, I heard the voice of the Lord speak to me and say, tomorrow, his whole situation is going to turn around, and the doctors are going to call him a miracle baby. And immediately, I was back in my body in the restroom, still using the restroom. Wow. The next morning, they called the family and told us that he had completely turned around, and the doctors were calling him a miracle baby.
Oh, my God.
And then the second thing, I'll have three things I want to share because the third one's pretty spectacular as well. But the second time, I left my body. I'm standing in a hospital next to an angel, and I'm using a payphone. Y'all remember what payphones are, right? Mm-hmm. I know some of the viewers may not know what a payphone is. It's not a pay-as-you-go cell phone. But
where's the quarter?
Right. Yeah, where's the quarter? And then they raised it. Remember, they raised it. I didn't want to spend 50 cents just to call. I mean, come on. But I'm standing by the payphone, and this angel's next to me, this great big huge angel. I'm talking on the phone, and they are coming out of the operating room, wheeling out this man that's on the bed. He's dead. He's got his head covered up, and his family's crying, and they're just weeping and wailing. And the angel said, hey, pray for him. And I'm like, he's dead. Leave me alone, And he pushed me and he said, stop and pray for him. He's not dead. He's still in here. So I stopped the doctor. The doctor looked at me real crazy. We got a saying in the country, the way he looked at me. He said, he was looking at me like a mule eating sire briars. Okay, that's an old country saying. And I'm just an old country boy. But he said, yeah, go ahead. So I laid hands on this man, and we began to pray. And that man sat up in the bed, came back to life. And I was taken back to my body. Very, very powerful experience.
Wow.
So you felt the Holy Spirit was flowing through you?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes. Now, I've actually seen people raised from the dead physically in a church service. There was a gentleman in West Virginia, Brother Boster, had fell over dead in the service. He was dead for about 15 minutes. He used the bathroom on himself. He was clinically dead. And they called the ambulance to come and see what they could do. But in the meantime, the bishop, if he was here, he'd tell you the same story. The bishop said, everybody start praying. When we prayed, Brother Boster sat up in the seat and walked out to the ambulance. And He stood on the pulpit the following Sunday and testified that he was raised from the dead.
Oh, my gosh.
But now here's another fascinating thing I want to share with you. It was completely out of what I'm used to. I was working in Huntington. I was the HR guy at this company. And this young lady comes in to apply for a job, and talk about getting freaked out when you come to apply for a job, is this crazy preacher who has been contacted by your dead brother. Uh-huh. Okay. She walks into the office, and immediately I go into a vision, and I see this man laying between two buildings with a white coat on, a pair of denim jeans, and he's dead. And he stands up and he tells me, hey, my name's Chris. I didn't die from an overdose. I was murdered. And I thought, okay, why are you telling me this? And well, I asked the young lady, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, excuse me. I said, you don't know me, right? She said, I've never met you before, sir. I said, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, but who's Chris? She said, that's my brother that passed away. Wow. I said, yeah, did he die in between two buildings? Did he have a white jacket on, a pair of denim jeans? She said, yes. I said, well, Chris told me to tell you that he didn't die, but he was murdered. Wow. She began to shake and cry because they thought he died of a drug overdose. Now, I'm not exactly sure what happened. Maybe he's seen something that he shouldn't have seen, and somebody gave him a hot shot, or somebody killed him, or I don't know how he got killed, but it kind of brought some closure to her. So that's just three of the main stories that come to my mind of things that I've experienced. There's a whole plethora of other stories, things that I could share as well, but I'm anxious to hear your questions.
Yeah, well, you have to come back a couple of times because I want to hear.
This is once won't be enough. I promise you.
I'll definitely come back.
Your turn. Go ahead.
Okay, so I had some weird experiences while young. I'm not going to bore you with that. But when I got to be an adult, as I have a doctorate in science, and I'm an engineer, and I had become a materialist, physical person that had any beliefs, even though my father was a minister. So I went home, and right before I had to travel to Israel, and he was inspired to tell me this story. He says, I want to share a story with you. I says, I don't know why. He says, I feel I need to. So he was going over he had an evening meeting at one of his tenant churches, his sharecropper churches. He had 3 of them.
Oh, wow.
And he was driving down the road, and a storm came up, and it was ugly. And he heard a voice in his head that says, Tom, stop and turn around and go home. And he just knew he had to. So he stopped and turned around and went home because it got wicked. There were tornadoes, floods, everything. He got home, and the next morning he learned that 1 mile down the road from where he turned around, the bridge that crosses the creek was totally destroyed.
Wow.
And no one knew it, and he would have gone right over the edge into the water. And so I don't know why he told me that, but anyway, I left and went to Israel and stayed there for 6 weeks while I was working for the United States government. And that was not an easy trip. It was not. If you learn the ugly parts of the world, it's not easy. So at the end of it, in order to honor my father and my mother, I decided to make a trek around the holy sites. So I went to the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, the Garden of Gethsemane in East Jerusalem, walked back into Jerusalem, just kind of wandered, went to the East Gate into the city, walked past, and found I was standing right in front of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I went inside, looked around, saw the place they claimed that Christ was nailed to the cross. And then I saw where there was a tent over his tomb, but the Greek Orthodox were there with their hand out wanting to charge you money to see where Christ was buried. So I didn't want any part of that. So I began to wander. I went down into this place where there were just a handful of people. And we were looking at tombs, like the ancient old tombs that were carved into the rock. And all of a sudden, everything got quiet. You couldn't hear anything. And then I began to hear this wind that was blowing nothing. It was a wind, sounded like a wind, but it was blowing nothing. And I could see on the other people's faces that they were experiencing something similar. And after a moment, I heard in my ear a single musical note and the words, Rock of Ages.
Wow.
We all began on the same beat, multiple languages, singing the Rock of Ages.
Wow.
So that was kind of upsetting because I had been in denial. I left there and changed a lot of things, including kind of what I was doing. And later on, just odd things began to happen, and my parents passed. And during COVID, I got down and depressed because I was trapped in my home and couldn't go out because I had heart attacks. But then I went and visited a friend, Chris Bledsoe, who you know, and he knew that I had heart attacks, so he prayed for me. And so before I moved to this house where I was living during COVID, I went to my cardiologist, and he says, look, I don't know what's going on, but I cannot find anything wrong with your heart. You have the heart of a 30-year-old with 100% function, even though you've had 3 heart attacks and a quadruple bypass.
Wow.
So I began this long relationship with Chris, and I've known now he's healed it because people contact me, and I get inspired to send them to Chris, and you cannot believe how many people that guy has healed from cancer, and we're on death's door. So it's just been interesting. And so have you personally experienced miraculous healings besides the raising from the dead, other than somebody you knew, you prayed for them, and they were cured from something horrible?
Oh, absolutely. You know, my life, and in my book I'm writing, as a roaring lion, I'm working on that. I should be done with that this year. I talk a lot about my birth. I was born premature. I was born crippled, and the Lord healed me. That's the first notable miracle in my life. You know, I tell people I was born into this war, and when Satan dealt the cards, he dealt me a losing hand. But God had different plans for my life. I have seen multiplied miracles. I've seen people spit up cancers out of their mouth. I've seen people get out of wheelchairs. I've seen people healed of heart disease. You know, you brought up about your heart. I remember there was a young lady that traveled to hear me preach over 2 hours from Lexington, Kentucky, to come down to a service. And she was 16 years old, such a beautiful young woman. And they were going to try to do a heart surgery, and they didn't even know if it would work. And, you know, they were hoping to one day get her a heart transplant. She came to service. She drove 2 hours. Her mom and dad drove 2 hours to come to Ashland. And she came up in the prayer line. We used to have prayer lines back in the day, and we would have people gather around and lay hands on people. And she came up. She said, "Brother Josh," she said, "you know, I've got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and I'm so scared, and I don't know if I'm going to make it back to church tomorrow night. But can you pray?" And I asked her, I said, "Yes, honey, but I want to ask you a question. You believe God's able to do it?" She said, "Absolutely. I wouldn't come up here and ask you to pray if I didn't." So we laid hands on her and we prayed. And after the service, she left and went back home. And, you know, I thought about her all day long. And when our musical ministry came that night, they were connected with her. And I asked the lady that played the piano for us, I said, "Have you heard from Sister So-and-so? I don't remember her first name." And she said, "Oh, yes, I can't wait to tell it tonight at church." So when the service began, I had her come up and announce the news that she had. And that young girl went to the hospital that day, and they run a dozen tests. They run blood work, and they checked everything. And when they found, you know, the miracle that God had done, they said, "We don't understand. We can't describe. We can't explain what happened. But you have a brand new functioning heart." God touched that little girl, and she's still alive today. You know, I've seen God do many, many wonderful miracles. And you know, not just in my life, but in the lives of thousands of people. I've traveled all across this nation and in other countries as well. But I've seen God do the miraculous where people would only believe. You know, we present to the world a God that's untouchable, unreachable. But Jesus, you know, even though God became a man, he became incognito. He was God on the inside of a man looking out, reaching out to the world. And Jesus' whole ministry was nothing but a miracle in and of itself. Not just the miracle of salvation, but the miracle of bringing a God to the people that had been ostracized from God by rituals and temples and sacrifices, but a God that came and walked among his people because he wanted to touch his people physically in a physical form. And that's always my prayer. You know, Jesus, manifest yourself in the service. You show up, you do what you want to do. Not my will, but your will be done.
So in the beginning of my life, which is the beginning of this story, I got cerebral meningitis before I was 1 year old.
Wow.
And the doctors said, "Okay, we're going to try one last thing, but I don't have much hope. You need to prepare yourselves. If he survives this, he'll almost surely be a vegetable, and we don't think he's going to make it, but we're going to go try one more thing." They did. And before that set of stuff was over, I had 3 cardiac arrests.
Wow.
So I was out multiple minutes, was the last one. And then I seemed to come back. And my fever broke. They told my mother I would likely be a vegetable, and I'm not a vegetable. You know, what can I say? So just the beginning of my life had 3 NDEs and a miracle. So I guess that this was my die was cast long before I understood it.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
can I share something really quick?
Yes.
When I was growing up, I had really bad asthma attacks to the point where I'd have to go to the hospital a lot. And my mom didn't really believe in energies or anything like that. But when I had bad asthma, I would sleep in her bed. She'd watch over me. And so I was asleep and I was having a really bad asthma attack in my sleep. She woke up to hearing footsteps going down the hallway. And when she woke up, there was a woman. She didn't have a face, but a woman with a dress. And she put her in a bonnet. She put her hands over my body. And I started to breathe again. I didn't wake up, but I started to breathe again. And my mom, I mean, till the day she passed, she would talk about that. And so I believed her. I do believe in all of this. It's amazing, you know.
Maybe that wasn't an angel. Maybe that was someone that God transported to your room to pray for you. A prayer warrior.
You know what? Yeah, when you were talking about that, I was like, how does this happen? Now I have to go down this rabbit hole, you know. It's interesting. I don't think have we met anybody that have done that? I don't. You're the first person I've heard say that.
No, this was intended, and your intuition knew it.
That's right. Thank you. Let's. You want to do the pictures and videos real quick?
Yeah, we can. Absolutely.
All right. Well, here's the first one, and you describe it, and I'll tell me to advance, and I'll move to the next one.
I screenshotted some of them. Sorry if they messed up.
Now, this first picture here is a multicolored craft that I took a picture of. You can see my camera works horrible. I'm blind as a bat without my glasses, but you can see it's spinning. It's spinning in a circular motion, and it's changing colors and changing shapes.
Oh, it is spinning.
Yeah. My friend Jason McLeod said it's like the wheel in the middle of the wheel. If I could zoom in on that, maybe we could see the counterparts and the interactive parts moving together. But I seen that and I thought, I have never seen an airplane do that. And I've flown on a lot of airplanes before, and I love airplanes. I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was younger. I've never seen an airplane do this, and I've never seen those collars. Look at that. That's like a kryptonite green.
Right. Neons.
So, yeah. That was kind of interesting. Now, I'm not sure what the second picture is.
All right, let's just move over and take a look.
Okay, this second picture, there's 2 crafts in this picture. One of them is the typical bell-shaped UFO. It's green. And then you see the little purple orb up in the northwestern corner of the picture. It's just, it's very visible. You can see it. I actually took this picture standing in my front yard. Just about everything that I film or take a picture of is from my front yard or my driveway here in Kentucky.
We are front yard and back almost everything we see.
Yeah, it's awesome when you don't have to go nowhere.
Exactly. Well, we have taken a trip to a cemetery or two. And
around the block.
It's actually just around the block.
Now, here is a very interesting picture. I was standing out, as you can see, the lines of the phone lines and the wires, but up through those wires, you can see what looks to be like a barrel-shaped craft with a green top on it. I wish I could have zoomed in a little bit farther than that, but I'm not very good with, knowing how to do all these things. I need to give them to my son and let him doctor, let him crop them or whatever you call it. I guess that's the right word, isn't it? Crop?
Yep.
Okay, but that right there really just kind of blew my mind. And you can see the light emanating off of it in different directions if you look closely.
Yeah, I see a couple of rays are coming off of it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it just shocked me. I seen this and I'm like, what is that? So I said I had to get a picture of that.
And it's so
yeah, that's pretty bright.
It is very bright.
Wow. All right. What is this?
Well, these are 4. I don't know if it's a triangular craft. They were flying in unison. I got this picture as they were flying over. You can see the purple. Well, it's probably different crafts because you see the purple, and then you see the green bell-shaped UFO kind of leading the pack. And then you see a couple other green-collared UFOs. I call them UFOs because they're unidentified and they're flying objects. I know they've got a new word for it. What is it?
UAP.
UAP.
We call them UFOs. Don't. You're in the right company.
Okay, good. But see how they're flying in a V shape like that. I don't know if they are all part of one big craft or if they are different crafts. Sometimes they appear as different crafts. And, you know, whether they be, you know, malevolent or benevolent creatures or, you know, that live outside of time and space that somehow appear in our time and space, that are able to bend light and, you know, space and time and portals and different things like that. But I found this very fascinating, the way they looked in the formation. I thought, wow, I've got to definitely get a picture of that.
That's amazing.
This is a good one. I love it.
Now,
we have a few triangles like this. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, I see these quite a bit. And the funny thing about these triangles is they sit right over top of my house. I mean, they will sit there and just sit there for hours.
Really?
Yes. Now, you see the obvious two. You see the purple and then the darker. I think it's a light on a craft. You see the darker light underneath, and then up to the right, kind of like in a triangular fashion, you see the light, which is not so much visible, but you can actually, if you look closely, you can see the outline of that craft.
Yeah, so I see little glowing things right along. Oh, you can see the edge and the dark edge. I wish everybody could see this, but I can make it out. I can make out the body.
And that was pretty fascinating to me. And that's not the first time I've seen something like that. I've seen something like that on the highway too, that took off like turning a light switch on. I mean, just as quickly as anything could go. I've never seen anything go that fast.
That is interesting.
Wow, that's really lovely.
Now here's another video, a different video on a different night of the same craft that's spinning like a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Changes colors, it'll pulsate from green to red. And it's normal for me to see these craft like this. Now, there are different crafts too that we've got video of as well, but see how they move like that? And it's hard for me to keep up with something that's moving that fast. What they'll do is they'll stay in frame for a few seconds, and then they'll take off. And when I go over to start filming again, then they take off in another direction. So it's kind of like a hide and seek.
Playful. They're playful. All right.
Now here's the orb.
This one.
This thing seems like it's alive, and see how it pulsates toward the camera. This is, to me, it reminds me of something that's alive. I don't know exactly what it is. I have my opinions. I think that it could be angelic, as we were talking earlier about the war in heaven that's going to take place in Revelation chapter 12. I have a feeling that this is some kind of an angelic being. Of course, I've seen angels several times, not just in a personal way, but here in our house too. You know, my wife's heard them. They used to walk through the house. You can see the light of them passing through the house. Pretty amazing. And that one, I don't know what happened. It just kind of, when it went out of the way, it just kind of went dark, and I couldn't see nothing else. So, as you can tell, like I said, I'm not very good with the camera. So, I guess I was just
you have evidence. Most people don't get any.
That's great.
I was just kind of in awe of what I was seeing.
Yeah, of course you were.
They definitely wanted you to see.
Now here's this cigar-shaped thing, and I've never seen nothing like this before. I don't know how long it was as far as
it's
I
bright.
don't have nothing to, yeah, it's very, very bright. That's one thing that attracted me to this, because I'm like, what is this? Is this at first I thought it was a drum, but it's like 10 o'clock at night, or no, 6:47, I think it says on the picture. So it was dark out. 6:47 p.m. And this was just taken not too long ago. And I mean, when I walked out, I seen this bright thing, and it wasn't going very fast.
Yeah.
And its movement was very strange, though.
All right. What is this right here?
I have no idea. I've not seen that until just now.
Wow.
Yeah, that drew my attention. So we see these cylinders. Our favorite capture of one of these cylinders was in the northern sky. Saw a flash, and it looked like a little something was going on, and we saw the cylinder come out of a hole.
Oh, wow.
Flew across the sky, re-entered the hole, flash, it was gone.
Wow.
So it's like we had a portal open. It came from wherever it came from, flew across the sky, went back into a portal and vanished.
That's amazing.
Do you know if you live near what's it called, ley lines?
Yeah.
Don't they like them?
Yeah, I can't think of any around off the top of my head.
Oh, yeah.
Ley lines. No, I'm thinking about Kentucky.
Do I live in there?
Tell me what is interesting about where you live.
Nothing. I mean, to be honest with you, it's kind of we just got new roundabouts put in our downtown, and it's like destroyed the businesses downtown. But
so
we have a power plant. We have a big power plant. I mean,
I think
you're a casino.
I think you're like living with Lala. Y'all are magnets for whatever's going on.
I believe so.
Oh yeah.
They like that.
Here, that's a nice triangle. Way, that's a good one.
Yep. And I took a video of that too. I'm not sure if I sent the video part, but you can zoom in on the video and see little lights like flashing on the belly of this craft. And it's amazing. It's kind of turned at an angle, but that's the one that it sat there forever. And then it got up higher and higher in the sky till it went out of sight. But that's very fascinating. I mean, like I said, you can't make stuff up like this, and it's taken right on my cell phone, and it was just mind-boggling. And but I never have had any kind of fear when I see these craft. I don't have any fear. I don't feel any harm that's trying to be done to us or our planet. And it's very comforting at times.
Right.
If that sounds strange, but it's very comforting to see these things.
Yep.
Because it lets me believe, that, I mean, even if there is, maybe and I've heard different speculations, maybe it's us from the future coming to warn ourselves in the present. Maybe there are other people that exist outside of this solar system. And if they are, we need to welcome them. I don't think that their intentions are ill. They're ill-willed. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I've never had any contact with them. I'm not inviting that right now. If they want to come and talk, hey, I'll make you a cup of coffee. I'll be hospitable.
Yeah, come on in and sit down and talk to us for a bit.
There's another one of those. Wheel in the middle of the wheel.
Hi, Mercedes. What? She's in the room, chat room.
Hey, Mercedes.
Okay, sorry.
There's another one spinning. And they move see how it moves like that? I mean, it's just.
That's amazing. And
then they're gone. And there he is again. But yeah, I see those a lot. So, I mean, very impressive, very amazing. After we get done tonight, I'm going to go out and see if I can get some more.
Of course.
I wonder, can you call them to you? If you think of them, will they come to you?
I walked outside from work the last Wednesday or the Wednesday before, and they were in the sky. And I work an hour away from where I live. Mm-hmm. This craft that I'm seeing right here that's on the video was in the sky.
Do you feel like you're being prodded to go outside, or you have a feeling?
Yeah, I do. When I do go outside, I do.
You and Chris Bledsoe and her.
A very good friend of mine, he sees these as well. Bill Bean. I don't know if you've heard of Bill Bean or not.
Yeah, we know Bill Bean.
He lives near us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Bill's a real good friend of mine, and everything I take, video-wise and picture-wise, I send to Bill as well, and I send to Mercedes, Desiree also. That way they have a copy of it just in case I get abducted and I'm taken to another planet and made the president of the PTA or something up there, But that's another one of the orbs, the pulsating orbs. I take that a lot, and it's the same. I mean, it's amazing how they do that. Now, that might have been a duplicate video. It looked like the one.
Yeah, I think it was. But if never mind. I apologize. Yeah, okay. We're at the end. That's the last one.
Okay.
This is like the best we've ever gotten on our show from a guest, honestly.
These are very interesting because I like the way you narrate them.
but they're great video. I mean, they're clear to me. They're colorful. You can see movement, shapes. It's awesome.
I've got some cool pictures I'm going to send to you that I took a couple years, maybe 3 years ago, as I was getting in my truck. I took a picture of 3 crafts, and they were solid green, and they are right there. I mean, they're not even 50, maybe 75 feet off the ground. I will send that to you tonight when I find them. I'll send that to your email so that you can take a look at that, and I'll be building up a database to send, because I've got other pictures too that I didn't send, because I'm, like I said, I'm still learning all this stuff. I'm a dinosaur.
Oh, one time it was on, so we have a motion sensor night camera out back that picks up a lot of stuff.
A lot.
And one time, 2 years ago, we got something shaped like a cross. I screenshotted it. It was a cross-shaped something in the sky. It was huge. It was amazing.
You want me to show it? Okay.
I'll send it to you. It'll take forever. It was 2 years ago. It'll take 2 hours to find it.
No.
But no, it made me start thinking. And when you were talking about a wheel within a wheel, and a lot of people think that's what an angel really looks like, So this is very interesting.
It goes back to Ezekiel's vision.
Oh yeah.
In Ezekiel chapter 1, verses 4 through 28, talks about him seeing the whirlwind and the great cloud with fire that radiated light. Those 4 living creatures and that wheel within the wheel, and eyes looking out of the windows. It's if you really read that and you read it not through the eyes of denomination, but you read it just through the eyes of a reader, that right there shows that there's some kind of a craft involved, and inside that craft was where the throne of God was. In chariots of fire, 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 11, those chariots of fire wasn't horses and a chariot that was on fire. There was some kind of a craft that came and picked Elijah up. I'm a firm believer in that. The Star of Bethlehem. I don't think it was just a regular star in the sky.
I believe that.
That was one bright UFO.
Right.
Oh yeah. I remember years ago, I was 19 and I was looking up. I was just drawn to this star. It was really bright. It was not moving, and I looked at it, and after a few seconds, I guess it maybe noticed. I don't know, but it zigzagged and then disappeared. And that's when I started to realize, like, okay, this is not what it seems. So that made me start looking into this more. But it's interesting. And then the carvings all over the world of the chariot people in little helicopters or whatever they want to call it. It's interesting. They're different cultures, but they all kind of are linked. They're very much linked together. So it's interesting. Absolutely. And it's nice to hear you, someone of faith, be so open about this, because a lot of times it's hard to mix that together, So it's very black and white a lot of times. So this is nice.
Well, remember, I started off our conversation by talking about seeing Jesus face to face and touching him and hearing his voice. So when I tell that story of my testimony, a lot of people tune me out and turn me off, because their faith, their system of faith doesn't believe that God can speak or appear to people anymore. So,
man, it is, to me, it's a sin to try to restrain God.
It is.
I'm sorry, it just is.
Well, that's why we're in the trouble we're in today. It started out as one church. Now there's 32,000 Christian denominations.
Oh my gosh.
So, and Jesus said he's coming back after one church without spot, wrinkle, blemish, or any such thing. Ephesians 5:27. So
our friend Linda is here listening, and I just saw her in the room, and she was on a deliverance team for years. Now her health will not allow her to run off and do that anymore. She went all over the world doing what I call exorcisms. But anyway,
God bless you, Linda.
The two of you should probably talk sometime.
That'd be awesome. Thank you for your service to God, Linda, and to your service to your fellow man. God bless you.
I guess we have about 15 minutes.
Yeah, whatever.
I really want to get, if it's okay with you, I really would like to get into talking about, people getting attachments and information on that. Just whatever you have to say about possessions, attachments, stages, maybe how it happens, or
Yeah, that's attachments. The thing about attachments is a lot of people don't understand how they get those, how that they come to have those things um, happen in their life, and cannot be possessed unless you open the door. The devil just doesn't come in your front door and sit down on your sofa and prop his feet up and say, "Hey, guess what, honey? I'm home."
right.
There has to be an exchange, and there has to be a willing participant. He doesn't strong arm anybody. In the garden, he didn't strong arm Adam and Eve to sin. And that's a whole different story there. We're taught a certain thing in the Bible, but if you read the original Hebrew, the sin was a lot deeper, darker, and more sinister than eating a piece of fruit.
Right.
And maybe someday we can sit down and talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But he came, the Greek word for the word serpent is nakash, which means a shining one. He did not appear as a snake. He appeared as an angel of light and deceived man. It was God's greatest accomplishment, creating man. And the devil was there from the beginning to try to destroy. And according to Ezekiel chapter 11, it talks about the Garden of Eden being the very place where Satan lived. All the stones and the topaz and the beryl and the gold and all that was Satan's. And Satan, that was actually Satan's home before the fall. And God put this flesh and blood creature that he created in Satan's home, and Satan just couldn't deal with that. And, Satan went after the very thing that God loved the most, humanity. And I always said it this way: the reason why God created man is because love craves love. He didn't want somebody that just praised him because they were forced to or created to. He wanted somebody to love him because they desired to.
Right.
And the devil was the archangel. He was the archetype. I believe that he was the first angel ever created, and he was the archetype that God used, the pattern that God used to create all the other angels.
And his ancient name meant bearer of light or morning star.
Yep. He's known by many different names. But he is, we call him Satan because that word Satan just means adversary. He's called the accuser of the brethren, Lucifer, the morning star, Beelzebub. There's so many different names, Baal, so many different names that he goes by. But he is the accuser of the brethren. And, if he can get you to kind of like the old circus sideshows, remember when they would have all the oddities and you would pay to go in this certain part of the circus and see all these crazy freaks of nature. But they had people standing out. Come on in, get your tickets. Come and see the bearded lady. Come and see the wolf boy. Come and see the lizard man. Well, Satan does the very same thing. He entices and draws us, but he does that through our own lust, our own desires. And he uses the very things that are the weakest about us. And he exalts and exemplifies those, and he makes those things greater into where it takes over our thoughts and our very desires. And he uses those things to lure us to him. And, we live in a day and an age where demonomania is something that's very prevalent. We're attracted to the darkness. Every movie we make has to do with darkness. Yeah. Everything you see has to do with the darkness, demonic possession, oppression, possession. And, that is a door open. Mm-hmm. Not saying that when you do paranormal research and things like that, that's a door open. Of course, we are targets to the enemy. We know that to be true. We're targets, and we can be targets for oppression. And all of us at one time in our life have been oppressed. I like an oppression as like an injured gazelle, and the lions marching around on the outside, waiting to pounce, waiting to kill. Because the Bible says in 1 Peter 5:8 that the devil goes about as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And when you get vulnerable and you allow him in, you open the door, that's when he comes in and begins to lure you into attaching yourself to him.
Oh, yeah.
Now, possession is something that's progressive. It ain't something that happens instantaneously because we still have a free will. And a lot of times I've found that when we're going to pray for someone that's possessed, a lot of times that will begins to speak, and they begin to tell how that they don't want to be possessed, and then the evil spirit begins to speak, to take over and begin to speak for them and through them. And it's a battle of the will of the person and the demon. And it's also a battle of the will of the exorcist and the demon. And, it's a great fight. It really is. And there's a process. There's a rite and a ritual that we use. And it's kind of like a back and forth. It's not like it was in Jesus' day where Jesus commanded and they went. We do have that same authority and power, but the devils aren't afraid of us like they were Jesus. They're afraid of our submission to God, but we can resist them all we want to, and they could take us and tear us into a million little pieces and throw us to the wind. Excuse me. But we have to open the door. And in order to open the door, you have to let down your guard. You have to allow your vulnerability to get you to a place in your thought process and in your soul and your spirit to where that you're looking for an outside source to influence you, an outside source to make you happy, an outside source to bring you power, to bring you money, to bring you wealth, whatever it may be that you're looking for. Sometimes people look to these outside entities that present themselves as angels or good beings to have companionship. Because the devil, he appears as an angel of light. He will come to you and lie to you all day long and tell you that he's good, that he's God, that he's got all the answers that you need. Here, just take this pill and turn this bottle up and you'll be okay. And I see a lot of demonic oppression in people that are addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I talked about it in Connecticut. The Greek word sorcery, Revelation 21:8, is the English word. The word sorcery is the Greek word pharmakia, where we get the English word pharmacy from. And the devil uses drugs to open the door to make people vulnerable so that he can attach to them, so that he can possess and oppress them. There's a demonic infestation which deals with home hauntings, poltergeists, things of that nature. A lot of people have suffered from oppression, but for it to be an actual possession, we get probably thousands of cases a year where people write in or call in and tell us they have symptoms of possession. And, about 5 out of every 5,000 cases are real possession. Right. Sometimes it's people that have a medical or psychological disorder. Maybe it's drug-induced psychosis. There was a case one time where a whole family was symptomatic demonic possession. And we had a contractor go under the house and he found black mold. And when they removed the mold, the family was cured. So it's not always demonic possession, but you have to open the door to let the devil in. And a lot of people have that dark attachment to the devil, to evil things, and they open the door through Ouija boards, through seances, through tarot cards. If you're involved in anything like that, let me strongly warn you, stay away from it. Those are doors that you open that allow the devil to come and to attack you at your most vulnerable state. And if you don't have Christ and the Holy Spirit living in you, then you will have a spirit or maybe a multiplicity of spirits living inside of you if you make yourself vulnerable and open the door. So be very careful what you allow yourself to be influenced by. There's been some things that have been talked about in the past by Father Gabriel Amherst, who's gone on to be with the Lord now, but he talked about certain tattoos and things that people are getting and how those are demonic symbols and demonic symbologies and demonic doors of opening. Yes. Visuals that attract demonic spirits. And you see them all over people. They get them all over their faces, all over their necks, all over their backs and arms and things. And it's an attractant to the devil as well. Not saying that all tattoos are bad, but there are certain symbols and symbologies, and it seems like it's prevalent among the younger people because there's a sense of darkness that's looming over the younger generation today. And this generation is in need of a great awakening. Not just to God, but a great awakening to respect again, to love again, to be just, I'm not sure the word to use, to be awakened, to be enlightened. And we really do need that in our society today. And maybe the visitors that we have that's going to come may help us get back to that point.
I think so. Yeah. Oh man, it's so, I wish you have to come back. This is going way too.
Yeah, this is very enjoyable conversation.
Yes.
We've learned a lot. I'm sure our audience likes it because she knows how to pick them.
This is my, I shouldn't say favorite, but you're my favorite. Okay. So we'll reschedule again for another time.
Yep.
Absolutely. It would be an honor to be on here with you again.
Yeah, we would love it. Hey, everyone, thank you. We come back tomorrow. We have Ryder Lee, and on Thursday, we have Brian Singh. So be sure to pay attention to what we're doing. I'm sorry?
Okay, we're flipping it. Ryder switched to Thursday because he's got a hike or something. I don't know. So Brian's tomorrow. Oh, and real quick, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. You look me up under Bishop Joshua Sparks. You can find me on YouTube under the same name. I'm getting ready to put together a really, really nice website. It's going to have all of our preaching videos on there, but you can find me on YouTube. All my preaching videos are on there. You can find me on the Unseen Realm, Saturday evenings, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'm on there with Archbishop Enright and our wonderful panel. And then you can find me on various TV shows on the internet and throughout social media. As God opens the door, the Lord spoke to me at the beginning of the year and he said, get ready because you're going to be busy being on podcasts and TV programs. And here we are.
Well, I mean, the things you were saying about young people, especially young men, they are
Absolutely
really struggling. I have never seen so much depression. They need help. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Reach out to Dr. Joshua Sparks, Bishop, and interact with him. This felt like this was arranged by a higher power, and we're very, very happy to be here. And we want to thank you all for being here, and we will be back soon with other guests, and happy you could come.
Thank you.